Hey, welcome back. So we are now at part two of this week's new comics, bitches. And yes, as you can see, the hand is out of the cast. I still haven't gotten, you can kind of tell probably which is the broken finger. Uh, but yeah, it's not quite all there yet, but it's coming. You know, to really. But anyway, so more comics. So this week, Marvel had some really good stuff come out this week. Again, I think that is, something that has been oddly consistent about Marvel lately. For in many cases, at least with the stuff that I've been reading. Okay, we have Uncanny X-Men number 8. This is another. It's a really good issue. Just kind of like the finale of the Tabula Rasa arc, in which we have basically, because we kind of figured out, okay, well, we had the last issue where there was some uh, resolution, but still didn't know what was going on with some of the other members, like Namor, Hope, Colossus, and Magic, and we finally kind of get on with that, finding out what happened to the rest of them, and ultimately the fate of Tabula Rasa and its inhabitants. Uh, there's uh, there's a brilliant moment here of comedy. There's some really just neat moments of comedy, like just there's a kind of an offhand moment for danger. I mean, one thing that if the book ever does kind of not live up to expectation, the one thing that it does have, and Kieran Gillen has a really great handle on, are the characters. So he provides some really solid character beats for everybody. That is, that's very clear within all of these issues and with his entire run here. Now we have art by Greg Land, and again, as with the previous issues, his art is terrific. But my problem with Greg Land is that all of his women look exactly the same. Their facial expressions, their just the looks, their bodies, they're all exactly the same to me. There's so it's that gets to be kind of it's mostly the facial expressions, the kind of rage, the kind of joy. It's like laughing and raging. They all look, the expressions are exactly the same. And that can be problematic for me. But the one thing that I did really enjoy throughout within the issue itself was Namor and his universal language that he apparently can speak fluently, and just like I said, the little character moments, the character beats, and ultimately the final couple of pages, which again have to do with the recent events of Uncanny X-Force, and not too familiar with what exactly happened there, but there's a scene between Magneto and Psylocke, and apparently Magneto had something to do with kind of the resolution of the Dark Angel saga. At least that's my understanding of it. So again, I need to get on top of that. I need to get reading. Need to get those books and get reading as far as so I can understand exactly what has indeed happened. So I would, so again, a very solid 4 out of 5 for Uncanny. And we have the Defenders number 4. Again, I don't know if this is suffering from the same kind of thing, because this is not done by, this particular issue is not done by Terry Dodson, but is actually done by Michael Lark. Now that to me is no problem whatsoever. I love Michael Lark's artwork, and would love to see even more of it. However, uh, his style definitely does. It's not kind of as well suited to, I would expect actually that it was not as well suited to a Dodson kind of fantastical comic than it would be to something like Captain America or Daredevil or Punisher. Something that's much more kind of grounded in reality. But that, like I said, is definitely not the case here, because he does convey the kind of more fantastical world just as well as any other artist would that you would normally see here. But the really interesting thing about this here is that we do touch back to basically this issue itself is about Doctor Strange. And one of the wonderful things about having a Defenders book is that it does get to focus on, you can take an issue here and you can focus it on one of these very interesting characters. And Doctor Strange is somebody who does not have a title right now, and who I think, under somebody like Matt Fraction, could really do well in a title. So, but what we have here is basically, it involves, his magics and, maybe his wishes, things like that. The machine that they kind of took, but again, also going back to the first issue, the young student that Doctor Strange bedded, and basically all of these things going on here, and someone that Doctor Strange was involved with at some point in his life. I don't know exactly who this is, but we have this, this woman that he was in love with that died of ovarian cancer, and yet here she is alive and well, and so it's not. But then there's also this other magician, a practitioner of the dark arts, who is looking to steal one of Strange's one of his books, and this is just a terrific issue. I mean, just kind of looking through it and looking at it, Michael Lark's stuff is just gorgeous. Fraction, this is probably, aside from his work on Iron Fist, this is, I think, his most accessible and easily my favorite of his works to date. It's a terrific title, very solid 4.5 out of 5 for Defenders number 4. And so moving along, we have a couple of Spideys here this week. We have Ultimate Spider-Man number 8. Basically, what we have here is kind of the discovery of, by Prowler or Miles' Uncle Aaron, that this his nephew is indeed the new Spider-Man. But it also brings the Scorpion to town. And Scorpion is, obviously a very badass Mexican gangster who is looking essentially to become kind of the new kingpin of New York. Now, with being somewhat clueless as to all of the events of Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 1, I'm not really sure if the Kingpin, someone like Wilson Fisk, actually did. If memory serves, I do kind of remember a Wilson Fisk from Volume 1, but I can't honestly remember 100% right now. So this issue goes a good way to show how badass he is, and also just goes to show how much of a prick how much of a prick Uncle Aaron, aka the Prowler, truly is. But also we see Miles clearly being affected by this, and then kind of out to clear his head, because he's afraid that his parents will think that he is a mutant. They are not fans of mutants in a big way. And then there's a confrontation between Miles and the Ringer, which is somebody I've never seen before, but it's kind of a wacky villain. He keeps kind of aside from facing down Electro, he does pretty much just kind of come into conflict with these B-list heroes, and I actually think that's better. Because you can't blow your wad right away. If you look at, for instance, Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, you'll see how they went with more of these kind of lesser villains, lesser known villains. At least I believe that Ra's al Ghul is actually my favorite of Batman's villains, but then went with obviously the most recognizable in The Dark Knight with the Joker. So I mean, building the escalation, as they talk about in that film, it also works here in Ultimate Spider-Man. Because you can't just throw somebody like the Green Goblin or, the Ultimate Kraven or Chameleon or whatever. I mean, we have the Ultimate version of the Scorpion here, but certainly a lot different than what we were used to in the 616 universe. So, Sarah Pichelli is back on art duty. Again, it's one of those kind of... it's like Chris Samney, who I do adore, and then Sarah Pichelli over here. They're different art styles, but I love them both. So, it's like I can't say that I miss Chris Samney, but during his run, I couldn't say that I really missed Sarah Pichelli because, like I said, I love both of their art styles. So, again, just from a storytelling standpoint, it seems a little brief, but it's still, really smart, very well written. Bendis obviously knows what he's doing. So just terrific issue. Good, solid, very, very solid 4 out of 5, leaning more towards 4.5. Moving along, more Spidey here. We have Ultimate Amazing Spider-Man 681, which is more Slott and Yost dealing with the Octobots and the kind of basically the road trip taken by Spidey and Johnny Storm, and it's just, again, this is just an awesome issue. It's so good. Dan Slott, Chris Yost. It's super hilarious what they do with these characters. They give them such great, wonderful dialogue. They put them in this, really tense situation, and they're still. And I love this moment where, Spidey is on board Horizon, and he is on board the Apogee, and we have, where he looks at Doc Ock, and, he actually says, you're not looking so good. Are you okay? I mean, and it's genuine concern from that, even though he's trying to destroy everything that's up there. They do, and, they come up with a massive kind of rescue plan to save all of the, to save the crew members and to save the, it's kind of a hastily put together plan, but it's ultimately, it's just, I wish that there was, I honestly wish that Dan Slott and Chris Yost just did like a spin-off series, like a team-up series of just Spidey and Human Torch, because they're such, their personalities are so similar that they, it's a love lrelationship, but they, sometimes you can kind of tell they hate to love each other because they have such, they're so different, but they're so similar in the way that they do things. So, glad to see that kind of work that kind of thought going into something like this. So, again, it's, for Amazing Spider-Man 681, 4.5 out of 5, easy. Just terrific book. So we'll be right back with more comics, so stay tuned.